Destiny, why do you hate Andrew Tate?
Why do I hate Andrew Tate? One is because I don't like the message he sells people. Two is because...
what's the message?
I wish that we could sell self-improvement without making everything so narrow in scope. Like, there are so many different paths to success. And to be fair, I've seen him give kind of contradictory messages on this. I saw him have a conversation with Sneeko, for instance, where he was very open about, like, it's not every man's life journey to become, like, the CEO of a major company. Some people need to be plumbers, whatever, which is good. But then in other videos, it always feels like the markers for success are the most materialistic, like, bankrupt, like, spiritually bankrupt things in the world.
I agree.
You know?
Right.
And that bothers me. And then two, assuming that he's not lying about everything he said online, he is undoubtedly a sex trafficker, which I think is kind of shitty. So, but there is the chance that he has lied.
We don't have a conviction.
Gotta back that up.
That's a
we can talk about it all night.
Big accusation. That's a
Slander.
huge accusation. That's a huge accusation.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
You wanna go into it?
he's been investigated by the authorities, and they didn't find any
He's
evidence.
still under
Well,
investigation.
hold on.
The
That's
cops
not.
were
Wait. To be clear, it's not true. They didn't find any evidence. They found enough evidence to continue to detain him while they finished their investigation. To be clear,
Fair.
Or is that true?
Yeah, for
that is
legal-
true.
yeah.
That's what's going on in Romania. Number
For
one.
legal purposes.
Number two, plenty of people have done crimes that get away with it and don't get convicted, which is fine. Now, ordinarily, I wouldn't
Wait,
say.
can we back up? What,
Sure.
what was the evidence that they found that justified continually
No, it's
detaining
not
him?
publicly
It's not
stated
public
yet.
yet.
Don't believe it's public yet because
No,
that's
it's
part of
not.
the investigative process,
Yeah.
right? So they've had to show stuff to a panel of judges, and they have to make the decision. Do we think you have enough here that there's likely to be charges coming at the end of it? And so far in Romania, the court system has said, yes, we do believe that to be the case. And I think they've got 3 months left to finally press charges. And if they don't, then the charges are dropped, or the case is dropped, and he's free to
Don't
leave.
they only have like 1 or 2?
They might have 1 or 2 months left. I
Because
don't
I
know
think
how
it was in
long it's been
December. Madison, do you want to
So
join
no,
us at the
let me
table?
ask. Can I?
Or-
I want to.
Actually, Madison, just stay there.
Can I build on something
yeah.
with that with him? So what is the overarching message of Andrew Tate that
patriarchy
you
in action.
don't support?
I wish that when we talked about delivering like purpose to young men, it wasn't wrapped up in such a materialistic package.
I
because
agree.
it feels like that's what's led to a lot of like, so I'm a big capitalist and I'm a big liberal, but arguably one of the largest criticisms you can launch at liberalism and capitalism is this hyper-consumerist, hyper-materialist mindset.
Agree with you,
You
yeah,
need to buy the next iPhone, you need to buy the next car. I really wish that like for Andrew Tate, if he wanted to sell this message of becoming like a fulfilling person, like show yourself working and doing honorable things.
Yeah.
Show yourself having a virtuous life, right?
Right.
Show yourself building a real business, not doing like cam girls and getting rich that way, or not doing casinos. Show yourself having like a virtuous life, not bragging you've got 20 girlfriends. Show yourself like engaged in virtuous activities that people can embody, that can be the embodiment of what young men should pursue, rather than constantly bragging about how many cars and women and all that shit you have.
So that's a great point. I totally agree with that. And a follow-up question I have is like part of Andrew Tate's appeal is he's speaking authoritatively about all of these different things when it comes to masculinity, the way the world works, so on and so forth. And there's a lot of people that are doing that online. But Andrew Tate is constantly flashing his wealth, his cars, his houses, the girls he's with, so on and so forth. How can someone get to that place where they're influential like he is and garner that interest from an audience the way that he did without flashing all of those materialistic things?
I think you can do it, but I think a lot of people don't try. The reality is that Andrew Tate is a really fucking funny guy. He's very charismatic. He's very charming, and he can do a lot of really funny content. He's done a lot of the fucking video where his brother is like, "I'm gonna break the Red Bull fucking record." I don't know if you guys have seen that.
Or the one
Oh,
where,
yeah.
the one where
That's
he was
just
saying
funny.
he was going to make Meghan Markle make him some chicken.
Sure,
Did you
yeah,
see
there's
that?
like,
So
I haven't seen
funny.
That
that
was
one, so I don't want to
amazing.
co-sign
So
that.
My favorite.
funny.
There's
actually.
so many
Hilarious.
videos that he's done that are really funny. I think he probably could have gotten relatively big doing that, but the problem is that you're making a deal with the devil when you say, I'm going to sell my soul a little bit to gain some level of popularity. Because what happens is on your journey to becoming that person that's getting popular enough to sell the message you want to sell, the message is going to get lost.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, when I look at Andrew Tate and I'm talking to a young man, well, how do you want to be successful? I want to be successful like Andrew Tate. What do you have to do? You've got to start a cam business and do gambling and sell alcohol and drugs and shit, right? Because that's essentially like what his whole business revolved around, was like casino stuff, working with mob people, and then doing like cam girl stuff. And so what kind of message are you actually selling, right? To young boys, saying that's the path to success.
So
I
in
totally
his
agree.
defense, he was doing the Hustlers University, which was
Yeah.
18 modern wealth creation methods, which was like copywriting, drop shipping.
But that's
you
after
know.
he made his fortune.
It was
doing
after he made his
cam girl
fortune.
stuff.
So what's the message?
So
right?
so I agree, but that's like during his upwards, like, you know, I think it was during summer of last year, during his meteoric rise, he was constantly saying, like, you know, join Hustlers or University where you can find these 18 modern wealth creating methods. So I understand that you're saying, like, because you have to factor in some things too. Like, he was saying those things intentionally, knowing that they were inflammatory in order to go viral, which is part, I mean, you're streaming, you know, this is part of the game, right?
So this is what you have to be really careful about. And it's something I think about a lot too. Like I said, you're trading parts of your soul every time you're trying to achieve a certain level of fame. And if you've traded away too many parts, there's not enough of you left to sell the message at the end. There are things that you can do to achieve a level of fame, to enact a good message, but if you've sold away too many parts of yourself to get there, you kind of lose the ability to sell the message at that point, right?
There's-
Yeah, and
there's-
I
there's
agree
a
with
Bible
you on that.
verse.
I agree with you on that statement too, in regards to that. But I don't necessarily think he was saying like, sure, one of the modern 18th, wealth creation methods was start a cam business, right? Manage your girls' OnlyFans. He went viral for saying
And he
like,
had, before Hustlers University, there was the
PhD.
in trafficking women, basically.
Well,
I mean, like, it kind of was, right?
I mean,
Something like,
I
when
don't
that's your
think.
message- and then when him and Tristan are openly bragging about like, oh, this is how we get these men, and we make them come back every time by scamming them with
Right.
their cam girls, I'm like,
So that's also a cultural norm in Romania.
it
Like
absolutely is not.
That doesn't.
No, well, I mean, sorry, not cultural norm, but in the sense like it's commonly known as the lover boy method to like get these
Entrap
girls.
women from Western Europe and to bring them over and do shit.
I wasn't talking about that, but like,
Okay.
just in general, like getting a girl to like you, and then also like fleecing pathetic men who are coming through.
Sure.
These chat groups.
What's your point?
The point I'm trying to make is that he is not necessarily saying that was the primary and only way to become this high value man, but it was one of the 18.
Yeah, but I don't think he's ever like disavowed.
point-
It's
the
not
point-
like,
the
like
point that
usually when
Destin is
rappers,
making,
well,
if-
usually like if rappers get big, I think that generally they're not going to say like, I'm really glad I sold drugs to get here, right?
Yeah.
They're not telling kids like, listen,
Fair
sell
play.
enough and one day you can be a rapper, right? Usually they're like, well, we shouldn't have been involved in that. We shouldn't have, like been doing these things as kids. Like there were other options that we just didn't
Yeah,
explore.
fair play.
So on this subject, I'm kind of hearing from you that it sounds like you're saying Andrew Tate was filling a niche, imperfectly so, because of all of the immoral things that he did to get there. He's filling a niche that a lot of men in the world need in terms of teaching them how to become successful, how to like climb the ladder in life, so to speak. Do you see there being a void in the world in terms of like righteous masculine leadership that like more men need to step up to the plate and fill? Is that something you think is
absolutely.
important?
I think the
Yes.
issue is we've spent like the past like 20 years especially. I say that probably recentism because I'm young, but like we've spent a lot of time building up women in a lot of really phenomenal ways. And women have made a ton of progress in terms of education, in terms of earning potential, in terms of like control over their lives that I think has been really phenomenal. But again, and Andrew Tate does this as well, and feminists and people on the left do this, it feels like we can never fucking have anything without demonizing the other side.
Yeah.
So a lot of the gains that women made, not physically are at the expense of men, but at the very least socially they're at the expense of men. Men are rapists, men are pigs, men are dogs, blah, 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 fuck men. And what that's created is made this weird world where now, in some places, women are starting to dramatically outpace men. In college, it's getting insane.
Yeah,
I think that college education
Yes,
right now is
yes.
like more unequal in favor of women than it was in
Yes.
favor of men like 50
No, and
years
I-
ago. And now we can't even have the conversation of like, what do we do about men?
No.
Because in some ways,
Yeah.
that patriarchy thing that we mentioned earlier, there are aspects of patriarchy that still carry over. For instance, a man is expected to provide for his household. Well, what happened in the pandemic? Even more men dropped out of school to provide for their households while women continued their education. And at some point, that's going to reverse like women's earning potential. Are we ever going to be able to talk about like, hey, I think we actually do need some representation for men. It's not just enough to expect them to rise up and overcome everything on their own. And we've had a really hard time doing that.
Yeah.
You know?